how to stop selling yourself short. Now let me tell you why am I talking about this topic. I have a friend who was positive for COVID last year. 3 months after he was out of COVID, he went unnoticed and he kind of went into a shell. Last weekend when I caught up with him, he told me something which was unbelievable. He said he had depression. And as a result of that, every time he spoke to people, he often found himself selling short due to lack of self-confidence and self-doubt. In today's video, I'm going to tell you 3 simple steps which you can do to overcome this selling short syndrome. Hey friends, welcome to CSKSpeaks and I am CSK. Today I'm going to tell you something very critical and important. As the world is now getting into the zone of uncertainty yet again with the newfound variant, the Omicron, the one or the little known thing about after effects of COVID is something which we need to be careful. We all deal with people in our family lives, and there are people who don't put these things outside of their purview to share with people. Let me give you what exactly I'm talking about through my own personal experience. A friend of mine, as I said earlier, had tested positive for COVID. Now, he took all the precautions and he came out of it after a month or so, but after that, that was the last thing I had heard from him, that he had COVID and then he was doing well to come out of it. After that, for more than 6 months, I did not hear anything. Last weekend, we caught up, and then when I was talking to him about those dreadful days, he mentioned, and that's where I got stuck. He said, I had been into depression. And he says it is the after effect of COVID which put him in depression, and normally people don't realize that they have gone into depression. But in this case, he did realize and he was vocal about it. And the reason he brought it to me is since I deal with a lot of adults and parents and children, he said, I want to bring this to your notice so that you can educate more and more people. And that is the reason I'm making this video today. See, COVID has its own negative impact on human body. But I think the most devastating impact is on the human mind, the mental wellness of people. Now this guy, I don't want to take his name for obvious reasons, but this guy was not known for being withdrawn. He was a very extrovert kind of a person. He was an outgoing person, flamboyant in his approach and very social with people. But for such a guy, he was forced to get back into a shell. He fought it tooth and nail, and today, after 6-7 months, he is able to speak about the condition he went through. But many people who are absolutely fine when we look at them around us may not have the courage or the confidence to speak out about their condition. In fact, the worst thing is many people don't even realize that they are going through something like a depression because it does not come with measurable symptoms. Every person goes through different experiences. So friends, the one thing which is very common for all of us from this point forward is keep your eyes and ears open, and more importantly, keep your mind open to listen, to observe people around you and try to give them that extra support. because the world is a new place now. It's a different place. In the last 18-20 months, it has gradually drifted into a more complex, uncertain, volatile world. Now, today's video, I'm going to tell you 3 simple techniques or tools which I could bring out from the conversation with my friend that every one of us can actually use to stay out of that depressive lifestyle. You can use it for yourself, you can use it for friends around you. Now, I am no qualified psychologist to give you practical tools to beat it, because every condition is different. But I can tell you, on the whole, these things does not need you to be qualified to go ahead and help others. So that is where we get started. The first thing is, for every critical thought, replace it with a counter fact. I'm going slow here because you want to catch this. For every critical thought you get, replace it with a counter fact, which is opposite but equally true. Now, if I dissect this a little, your critical thoughts are coming from normally a place called assumptions. Your assumptions make you feel that people don't like me, people are making fun of me, or people don't recognize me, people don't want me around. All these critical thoughts about your own self. I'm not good enough. These are critical thoughts. Now, they are coming from 9 out of 10 times, as I said, a place of assumptions. And if you replace them with a counter fact which is opposite but equally true. Like, for example, when you say people don't like me, there is a fact that your family always likes you. Your family is around you for the simple reason that they like you. Your friends want to stay in touch with you because they like you. Your children or your sisters or your brother, your sibling, all of them, your partner, your spouse, all of them are around you because they like you. So the assumption that people don't like me anymore is not true. That's a critical thought. Replace it with a counter fact which is true. Once you do this, your critical thoughts start to fade away. Because this friend of mine said that when he went into that depression, he could not see anything positive in his mind. Every other minute, he was only engulfed with negative thoughts, self-deprecating thoughts. Now, that's a downward spiral. You got to get a handle on that, and the only way to do it is replace it with a counter fact. Let me give you a simple story, not in the context of depression, but from the world of sport, so that you understand how just a new perspective will change the reality. So this story belongs to Ricky Ponting, the famous Australian cricketer. It so happened that during one of his cricketing careers, he went through a rough patch. In one of those rough patches, he was not able to score runs. In fact, so much so that he was sacked from the team. He did well in the domestic circuit. He practiced hard at the nets and finally earned his place back in the team. And when he came back, he started to perform. And he went on to make centuries after centuries. And finally, the press got hold of him and asked him that important question. They asked him what changed, because not much far below, he was not able to score runs, but today, after a couple of seasons, he's able to perform well. In fact, he's able to score Man of the Series trophies for himself and for his team. So Ricky Ponting said that, well, earlier when I was going through the rough patch, I started taking guard at the crease, and whenever I looked around, I used to look at fielders. I used to hit the ball directly to those fielders. But now, after my new perspective, when I go and take guard and then I start looking around, I look at gaps. I look at the gaps, and that's why I am scoring runs. Now I'll stop there. I hope you got the point. The point is very clear. For every critical thought, replace it with a counterfact. For every fielder, replace it with a gap. That's the first thing. And that's what my friend did. He said, you know what, every time I started getting critical thoughts, I started writing them down, and then I questioned myself by just putting a question mark around it and said, is this true? And when I realized that it is not true, that's when I realized what some wise man rightly said. When we assume, we make an ass of you and me. Just see the word assume, A-S-S-U-M-E. Put a line after the first three letters and then another line after the next letter, that is the fourth letter. Then you read it. Whenever we assume, we make an ass of you and me. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I've spoken at length about this, but I want to bring that again because it is relevant to this conversation which we are having, is comparing. And when we compare, comparison, as I said, we cannot help. It is kind of involuntary. It is kind of existential for all of us. But when we compare, let's be conscious about comparisons. And for that, what you have to do is simple. Whenever we are going in that trip of comparing, just tell yourself, okay, I am now comparing. That's being conscious about comparing. Because the minute you say, okay, I am now comparing, you have your guard down. You have your guard down, and then you say, okay, I'm comparing, and I'm comparing for the fun of comparing. I'm comparing for the sake of comparing, and it does not mean a big deal. And that's very important, because if you don't become conscious before comparing, it can play havoc in your mind. So the second way to stop yourself from selling yourself short, the second way to give yourself a boost of self-confidence is stop comparing unconsciously. Compare consciously. And whenever you do that, you understand that you are running a different path. You are running on a different journey. In fact, Pablo Picasso rightly said, the true meaning of life is to find the gift, and the true purpose of life is to give away that gift. Now, if you decode it, every person is unique with a unique gift. That itself is counterintuitive to the fact that you can't compare, because you are unique, your gift is unique. Now, if I compare myself with somebody else and I start running that race that he has this or she has this and I don't have, that basically says I am going on a trip of unconscious comparison, which will only attract and bring discomfort and disappointment in my life. So that's the second thing. And it is very easy to tell, I understand that, but what my friend said is, when I am conscious about comparing, my family comes to me and supports me and tells me that it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling this, but that's absolutely normal. And believe you me, when you are in that sticky zone, all you need is that hand which will tell you it's okay, it's normal. The third and the final trick which will help you boost your self-confidence is, research has shown that the lack of self-confidence is directly proportional to the lack of self-compassion. Let me explain. When you beat yourself hard, when you are very, very critical about your own performance, you will definitely not be able to be your confident best. And the solution is simple. Ask yourself, are you treating yourself the same manner in which you treat others around you? Yes, you cannot have different rules and different scales to measure different performances. When you are kind, when you are understanding, when you are comfortable by allowing people that long rope of tolerance, you got to give yourself the same long rope of tolerance. You got to be comfortable with your own skin. You got to be calm, patient, and follow the same rules which you will follow for others. As I said, self-confidence is directly proportional to self-compassion. And only when you have that compassion for your own self, you will be able to start to see the increase in your confidence, and thereby you will not be selling yourself short. So these are the simple 3 techniques which you can use. After my conversation with my friend, I understood that it is very critical that I share this with people around, because I think the next 6-7 months we will still be in an uncertain world, and the cases and the situation is not going to be as easy as we would want it to be. So if you are prepared, if we are prepared, maybe it becomes that much more lighter on us to handle and walk through this together. So that's the very reason why I am bringing this to your purview. But at the end of the day, we should and we can make a difference to people around us. Now, before I end this video, one last thing, and that's the bonus tip I want to give you, is having a gratitude journal. Whether you are affected with COVID, not COVID, with depression, no depression, it doesn't matter. Having a gratitude journal will be a wonderful thing for you starting 2022. So maybe through this particular video, I want to urge all of you to bring in a gratitude journal into your life. And what does that journal do? Is try to write at least 10 things which you are thankful and grateful for in your life every single day. By doing that, you have a positive energy and positive vibe sent out to the universe, and thereby you will be living in a more encouraging and more rewarding environment. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening to this. This is critical, and together you and I can and will make a difference. Stay safe.
Hey!